Hey, what's going on? Welcome back for another video. So, have you ever wondered how gold mines work? Or wanted to see how gold is made? So, I recently got the opportunity to shoot photos of a gold mine's first gold pour of the year. And it was a pretty unique experience. I'm about to take you on a crazy photo journey. But first, like the video for the algorithm and subscribe if you're new. I'll roll the intro and then I'll fill you in. So it was about 2 weeks ago now that I was relaxing in bed when my phone went off. It was an acquaintance of mine asking me if I was interested in doing a photo shoot for the mine he works at. And after a bit of conversation, I was offered a pretty decent sum of money to take a 2-hour drive and shoot the first gold pour of the year for this mine. So the reason mines want their first gold pour photographed is because they use the photos to entice investors, as well as use the photos for their press releases and so on. So the day came and we loaded up the car and headed out for the shoot. Now, I didn't get any B-roll of the drive through the desert or the insane story that I'm about to tell you. However, I do have some video of the gold pour itself, which is pretty interesting. Anyway, so we get to the town that the mine is located in. Now, I was asked not to name the mine, therefore I also won't name the town. But it's my fiance's hometown and her parents live there. So I dropped her and the kids off there, and JD and I headed out to the mine. Now, here's where it gets kind of crazy. So I type in the location on my GPS and it gives me what seemed to be pretty straightforward directions. I know that in order to get to the mine, I had to get off the main road and take a dirt road for about 12 miles or so. So I follow the GPS and I turn where it tells me. So at this turn, there appears to be some construction. There are also a couple tractors and some mining equipment, so everything looks pretty legit. So we take this dirt road for about 3 miles, almost getting stuck several times, before finally coming to a drop-off. Now, there was no way that we could continue. At this point, I'm getting frustrated because we're trying to get to the mine about 30 minutes early, and now we'd be lucky if we made it on time. So I attempt to call my acquaintance at the mine, and I had no service. So we turned around and drove back to the highway. We ended up driving almost all the way back to town before getting any service. So when I finally got a hold of him, he says this to me: "Yeah, you guys turned too soon. You have to keep going further up the highway, and when you get to a bend, you'll see a bunch of UPS trailers. When you see those, turn there." So we turn back around and punch it. Now, I'm driving a bit faster than I should have, but I was gonna be late for this shoot, and I didn't want to miss out on a decent amount of money. This is why there's no B-roll, because the last thing on my mind at this point was pulling out my GoPro. So we're doing 85 miles per hour or so, and finally, after about 30 miles, we come to a bend, and there's no UPS trailers and no turnoffs. And we're only a few miles from being in another state. So again, I try to call, but no service. So now at this point, we're about 10 minutes away from being late. So I head back towards the town, constantly checking my phone for phone service. We end up driving back to the exact same spot we had service before, and now we were officially late. I make the call and he informs me that they pushed the pour back an hour due to an issue with the smelter. So after we tell him where we are, he then gives us much better directions. And we finally find the right turn, which was only about 6 miles from town. Whereas the GPS took us 13 miles out. And so when he said we didn't go far enough, we ended up going even further. So now we're on the right track. We take the turn and are literally on an uphill climb for 12 miles on this dirt road going up the side of a mountain. After about 30 minutes, we arrived. We go to sign in with security and are greeted by my contact, or acquaintance, who informs us the pour has been pushed back another 2 hours. So JD starts to get frustrated because he has to be back home for work by 6 p.m., which puts the gold pour at about 2:45. Now at this point, all I wanted to do was do the job and leave. So after 2 hours of sitting around, we're then notified that they're pushing it back another hour and a half. So I'm like, no way, there's no possible way for us to stay any longer because we have other appointments. Now, this photo shoot was set up last minute. I had a day and a half notice. JD had to get someone to cover 2 hours of his shift just to do the shoot on time. We're now looking at waiting for 4 hours total before even starting the shoot. So then we're approached by the mine's COO, the Chief Operations Officer, and asked what would it take to keep us there. He ended up offering us double the rate plus 500, which I'm not going to get into the total, but it was an offer that I couldn't refuse, so we stayed. Finally, the pour was going to happen, and we got started. Now, the COO worked closely with us and filled us in on what he wanted, as well as gave us a bit of background on the process. So there are several steps before the gold is poured. Gold powder is slowly put into the crucible. In this case, it was about 10 bags of gold powder per hour. And they were looking at pouring about 10,000 ounces of gold, which was worth over $2.5 million. Then there's what they called slagging off, which is the sand remnants being poured out into a steel bowl. Now, this pretty much is just glass at the end of the day, but it still looked pretty cool. Then the time came for the pour. Now, the miner has to heat the metal trays with a blowtorch before he actually pours out the gold. Then they hit a huge snag. So the crucible had cracked and the molten gold started leaking into the slag chamber. So they attempted to pour and only got about 3/4 of one gold bar, which is nowhere near what they wanted. So normally during a pour, the molten gold cascades down the trays like a lava waterfall. But on this day, it just didn't happen. So the shots that I got weren't really the shots that they had hoped for, but that was no fault of mine. In the end, it was frustrating, but a very exciting experience. I actually wished I had pulled out the GoPro for B-roll during the chaotic journey, but my head was kind of somewhere else. The relationship with the mine, though, is in great standing. They love the photos that I did send them, which are different than the ones that I'm showing here. But they'd like me to return for their next gold pour, and now that I'm familiar with how to get there, I can get you all some great B-roll along with some drone footage, and I won't get lost. Anyway, I wanted to take you on this little journey with me to show you that not every photo shoot turns out the way that we foresee them, and that sometimes we just have to roll with the punches. Also, I hope you were entertained either by the story or by the process of pouring the gold. Personally, I enjoyed the process, and looking back, it was worth all the chaos. But what do you guys think? Chime in down in the comments and let me know. What would you have done? Also, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and click that bell for future videos. Also, visit my website, jeff-gresham.com, for photo prints, drone photos, and my newly released Lightroom preset pack that features 13 presets that I personally use every day. It's only $10 and it helps me out to keep the channel growing. So until next time, get out there and shoot, and I'll see you in the next video.